I'd like to show you this add-on for Blender that will change the way you work with Blender data forever. Let's just jump right in and see what the add-on is all about. The add-on is called Packed Data Manager, and it can be found in the 3D Viewport sidebar panel under the Packed category. First off, let's take a look at this data type property here. Here are listed all the Blender data types that we can work with in Packed Data Manager. We have things like actions, attributes, bones, collections, curves, drivers, driver variables, F-curves, lights, materials, material slots, meshes, objects, UV maps. All of this data we can select, filter, and execute operations on. So for now, our data type is set to object, and let's see what we can do with this. Here's the object operation menu. Here are the operations to change the built-in properties of object data. We can change things like transform values, like rotation and scale, visibility values, viewport display values, basically most properties that you can find in the object properties panel here. This applies to not only object data type, but most data types we can see here. Now these other operations, some of them are object specific, such as scatter and hide in viewport, and the other ones are available to most data types, such as select, set active and link to collection, and rename and delete. So let's see one of these operations in action. So say I want to select and isolate all the chairs. We can see that there are 156 objects in our scene, and the list is huge. So we can filter this list by using one of the filters. We can expand the filter section by clicking this little arrow icon. This is an item name filter, which filters on the item's name that you can see here in the list. So let's try typing in chair, and we'll see that we have 4 objects in this blend scene whose names contain chair. Now we can select them in the 3D viewport, and it seems like nothing happened because we have the overlays off. We enable overlays, and we see that our chair objects were selected. Now, what if they were hidden? And I deselect everything, and I want to select them now. Obviously, you cannot select what's not visible. So how can I know? How can I see these objects? I can use the link to collection operation. Here we specify that we want to link to a collection in the active scene. We want to link to a custom collection or a scene collection. Scene collection would link to this collection right here. We want to link to a custom collection, and we can optionally specify a name. If no name is specified, the default collection name will be used, and we can choose whether we want to unlink from other collections or not. So let's just leave everything at default values and hit OK. We'll see a new collection appear with our 4 objects linked to it. Now we see that there are dots in their names, and we want to get rid of them. We can use the rename operation, choose the replace option, find a dot, and replace it with an underscore. Hit OK, and it's done. We can also inspect the report of the last run operation by clicking this operation report button. We'll see that we had 4 objects renamed, their original names, and which have been changed to their new names. Let's take a look at the material data type now. Here we see all the materials that are available in the blend file. This button right here lets you select in the 3D viewport those objects which are users of these materials. So if we wanted to select the objects that use the ceramics material, we can click this, and we'll see in the 3D viewport all the objects were selected that use the ceramics material. So we have a toilet, a bathtub, a sink, a plate, and maybe we wish these objects to have a different material. Let's see how to do that. We're going to have to switch to the material slot data type, because materials in Blender are assigned to material slots. From here, we can either filter for ceramics by name. We'll see that there are 9 material slots with ceramics material assigned, or alternatively, we can add a material filter and tell the filter that we want to see only those material slots whose material is ceramics. And to change the material, we execute the material operation and choose whichever one we want to apply. Let's choose chrome. Hit OK. That's it. Up until now, we have exclusively used the global mode here. in this mode, which shows data available in the entire Blender file. Next, we're going to take a look at how the selected and custom modes work. In the selected mode, this list will show those items which are related to objects selected in the 3D viewport. Let me remove this filter and then select the bathtub. We'll see two material slots appear. If we go to the Material Properties panel, I'm going to see these two material slots. The material slot at position 1 has a ceramics material applied. Any material slot at position 2 has a chrome material applied. Here's the name of the object from which these material slots were fetched. If I select the sink, we're now going to see 4 material slots in total, because the sink also has the same 2 material slots with the same 2 materials assigned. So now these items are being grouped by the material name and their position in the material slot list for easier management. So now if we wanted to change the material of the first material slot, I can enter the multi-select mode, deselect the second material slot, and change the material to chrome again. Only these 2 objects will be affected. Let me undo this. Now, if I switch to collection data type, this list will show those collections which have the selected objects. So this object is an exterior collection, plate object is in these collections, toilet object is in these collections. Now, the custom mode gives you the most granular control. And this mode also supports two-way filtering. Let me switch to the material data type to demonstrate this. First off, when we're in custom mode, in addition to the default data type selection, we also get these from data types. Here we can specify from which data type we want to fetch materials. Materials can be applied on curves, grease pencil, material slot, mesh, metaball, or object. Here's a good example where your knowledge of Blender directly applies to Pack Data Manager. You see that a material can be applied to a mesh and also an object. This refers to material slot linking here. The material slot can be linked to either object or data. If I select to show materials from object, we'll see the material list being empty. There are no objects which have material slots linking their materials to object data. I'm going to select the bathtub and change the ceramics material slot to link to object. I'm going to assign the carpet material to it, and we'll see the carpet material appear in the materials list. I'm going to assign it back to data and switch the materials from data type to mesh. Now, what if I wanted to see all objects in the scene that have a material called mirror? I'm going to filter for mirror. And when I filter this list, these parent lists are not affected. Now watch what happens when I enable two-way filtering. All the lists above the materials list will show only those items which relate to this material. So the meshes list will show only those meshes which have this mirror material. Now object list will show only those objects which have at least one of these meshes. And these collections will show only those collections which have at least one of these objects. And the scenes will show only those scenes which have at least one of these collections. So it's a really quick and easy way to narrow down Blender data that needs to satisfy some specific conditions. If you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel and also visit polynook.com/packed/data manager, where you can find a comprehensive documentation explaining in detail every feature of the add-on and how the add-on functions.